this because obviously this is the back end of the song we just played, but I left it up for a reason because as that was playing, Slash, who just walked in, is telling me his voice is hoarse because he's been talking too much and talking too much on stage, and telling me how much he hates doing it.
Right.
And then just like on cue as the song ends, there you are talking to the crowd on stage.
Truth be known, I caught a cold. And then, you know, this happens every tour. You scream and yell in the microphone at the end of the show or whatever, and then your voice just goes out, and it takes about a week to recover. So here I am.
Is that what's happening right now?
I had a radio tour this morning, you know, I was hating life.
Early?
Yeah.
Where you sounded like this? Your voice was gone this morning,
too?
too?
Yeah. We came in from New Hampshire. I think it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and the radio started at 8, so I just stayed up. So it was a mess.
Did you sleep today?
Yeah, I took a nap.
Oh, that's brutal, man. That's brutal.
No, it's all right.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here.
Good to see you, man. I just appreciate you making time and coming in last time.
I should have just came after 10 o'clock. We could just hang out. Exactly. I got to talk to everybody.
Exactly. Last time you were here, your whole band was in here, and then you called in on the phone.
Yeah.
And so we had all those guys, and then you were running around.
Those guys can out-talk me any day of the week, so...
Yeah, you don't want to fight that, man. Especially with your voice ripped up.
Right.
You don't want to fight that.
And to try and sound, you know, enthusiastic about the rock trivia thing and all that stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've talked about this in the past, but Brent and Todd, especially in Slash's band, are... like me, super rock geeks, and we
endless banter.
And listen, your tour manager who's out there in the hallway.
That's why he's here. He wants to be in here right now, so he can pick your brain and stuff.
He's been texting me all day, and it's funny because Slash has his security guy and his tour manager here with him, but you're insisting they stay outside of the studio.
Well, because it makes me uncomfortable when they're in here.
I love it. And you were telling me too during the song that you, when you do, you've been on that metal show a couple times, but you really don't like doing TV. It makes you kind of nervous, right?
The thing is I just, you know, you come across like you look comfortable, but you're not. And so instead of being relaxed and being natural and saying what you want to say, you end up just not saying exactly what it was that you wanted to say. And it's an uncomfortable scene. If you don't have a guitar with you, you know, you're just sort of like, what am I doing? You know?
Well, see, that's you, though. Obviously, from, you know, me doing this, I'm in a total comfort zone there. Just like if I was on stage in front of 80,000 people like you have been, I would be a little bit freaked. So it's all relative.
Well, yeah, but you know what? Even on stage, like, you know what my whole thing is. Like, one of the things someone was asking me a couple of weeks ago about the top hat thing and all that. And I remember when I first got that hat, I wore it at the whiskey and I stuffed it over my head. And it was the perfect escape. And that's probably why I still wear it to this day. I feel really uncomfortable without it because you sort of like, and then the shades and stuff. And I realized that when I play, even though I've got shades on, I keep my eyes closed the entire time. So
really?
People think I might be looking out at the audience or whatever, but I only peek at my neck. It's so funny because I play like I'm looking at my neck, but my eyes are closed the entire time. And that has to do with not feeling comfortable in front of that many, you know, in a room full of people.
So most of the gigs you play, your eyes are closed almost the whole time you're up there?
Yeah, so I don't see hardly anything.
How do you walk? I know you're not walking into shit.
They open, you know, like it's
like
really
if you're
funny.
Gonna move, you take a peek?
Yeah, I never really think about it. And then it suddenly dawned on me when someone was asking me. And it's like I peek at the guitar neck and I peek where I'm going. But most of the time, every time I hit a note, I close my eyes.
If you play a gig without the top hat, do you feel like insecure?
I just shake my head a lot.
Let the hair fall in your eyes?
But I don't really feel comfortable. I did maybe a little bit more when I was really stoned.
I was going to ask you, when you used to get really fucked up, did you feel more comfortable? Were you more outgoing? Yeah. Did you feel not so freaked?
Definitely. I think that's the nature of that particular drug. It makes you feel...
Which one?
H.
Okay.
It just makes you be able to deal... Everything's cool in that instance. And booze is the same thing. It also takes you out of your shell. So without either of those two, I'm like a raw nerve.
Well, I thought too. Last time you were on that metal show was when the new album Apocalyptic Love was about to come out, and you walked out and you did a top 5 thing with us.
Oh yeah, that's actually what I was thinking about when I walked in here. I was like, because I was really uncomfortable doing that.
Well, because you're not in the years I've known you and all the times we've hung or I've had you on any of the shows, you're not. You really it doesn't seem like you really like selling your own shit.
I don't.
You'd rather let somebody else do the heavy lifting.
Listen, I mean, to be honest, I go out and I learned over the years that you've got to go out there and sell your stuff. You have to do it. You have to make an effort, and it's something that you see me out there all the time in a lot of public situations in my own stuff, but I hate doing it. I really do hate doing it. But especially if you're going to go out there and specifically point to your product and go buy this.
Like Vanna White, hold it up on TV.
It doesn't gel.
Because if you watch that show back, if you guys have no doubt seen it, but if you watch it, you just, the way you pitch the CD is just like, yeah, whatever, it's out, I hope you buy it. Like looking down like shameful.
Well, I mean, when it comes down to it, it's the only reason you're there in the first place.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I could be under the illusion that you're there because you want to hang out with me on the set, but...
There's stuff on my website, stuff on, comes up on Twitter, and my management office will go, hey, can we post this about this thing? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to post it, so you have to put /news, so it came from you guys. I'm not selling it.
You mean in order to sell something?
Yeah, in order to put it up there. It's like I usually won't go up and say it myself, but I'll let them post it.
Right. But see,
or they'll go, can we air this, like when you got the star ceremony in Hollywood, and can we put that on your website? I'm like, no.
But see, Twitter for you is something that I would think you would be good at, and you are good at it because you are active on it, and you can tell that the tweets are really coming from you. Yeah. And I would think that that's actually, for someone like you who is a little bit shy, it's great because you can make a direct connection to people who want to hear from you, but it's a one-way street. You can kind of pump out your thought, and then I don't know if you read mentions. If you go into the mention side, but
I read all the people that I follow, but I stay away from the mentions.
Right.
That's
deep water.
Yeah. Whether be it good or bad, you don't need to know.
Right. Well, you can follow simply @ he is on Twitter, and it's been a little while since we talked, man, and since we talked last time we talked, again, your band was here, you were on the phone because you were running crazy because this record, Apocalyptic Love, was just about to come out. And now you've literally been around the world with this thing. How's it felt living with this for a little bit?
Man, this has been the best time. It's been the most fun. Like, the last record was fun, and it was great to establish relationships with Brent and Miles and Todd and all that. But this time around, having an original record, and we were really proud of how we did it and had a great time making it. And then went out there and really sort of our own merit, built up an audience of, our own fan base. And so it's been really gratifying. And the shows have all been really, intensely received. And the place that I was the most nervous about was the States. Because, you go to South America, they go crazy. We go to Europe, they go crazy. You go to Australia or Japan, everybody goes nuts. But the States is always they've seen everything, and they sort of don't necessarily feel like they have to react. And so we did some touring around in May where we were doing the festivals, and it was cool, but didn't really know how it was going over. And then we came back all these months later and headlining, and it's just been over the top.
Yeah, I saw you in Oklahoma, at Rocklahoma. That was the last time I saw you, and you were just...
That was a pretty good gig.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of those gigs out in the Midwest where I was really sort of felt like a fish out of water in that sort of environment,
Do you feel better? You feel better about it now, though? You feel that this is kind of taken...
Oh, it's been great, man. That's why I brought it up, because it's now become so, so much fun, and I finally feel like we broke that ice.
Well, you have a band. I mean, this is, whereas before, and it's funny you're talking about having to do all the interviews and all the press, which still obviously is going to fall on you. Your name is front and center on this, but now the difference is this is a band. I mean, you even have a name, the Conspirators. Right. I mean, this is really the first.
Just changed it on our D sheets.
To what?
To the Conspirators.
Oh, from what? What was it?
From Slash featuring Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators.
Oh, so it's just the Conspirators?
I think eventually,
You're
once
going that
everybody
way?
gets used to the fact that, okay, it's Slash and Miles Kennedy, we'll drop that part and just call it the Conspirators.
Right. Yeah, because I was going to say, since this is really the first band you've had since Velvet Revolver with like a band concept, and I mean, it's got to feel good the way you have. I mean, this connection with these guys and this band, I think, is so special. I told you that a long time ago when I saw you play live with them for your last album.
Right.
You know, as soon as I saw it, and then just seeing, I had a chance to go by the studio when you were making this record, and just seeing how. I don't know. I mean, listen, a lot of people say to me all the time, they're like, hey, what's going to go on with Velvet Revolver? But to me, and I don't mean this as any slight to Velvet Revolver, and I'd love to see you do something with them again, but to me, I don't have a Jones to see you as a fan doing anything but this, because to me, everything's happening with this. I mean, you're getting a little taste of your whole career, and you're getting great new music, too. So, I mean, I'm sure you may have that side of you that wants to revisit that once at one point, but this to me is great.
I mean, at some point, I think Duff and I, we're sort of on a mission to, at some point, find the right guy to front the band so that we can make what we, quote unquote, call the quintessential Velvet Revolver record. Because even though we did some really cool stuff on the 2 albums that we did do, from the very get-go when we started doing Contraband, what we initially started out doing was a really heavy, really fun thing that we were really into. And then when Scott got involved, it's all good, I don't want to make it sound like it's, but it took a musical direction to sort of a turn that we weren't really sort of that sure about. And so Duff and I were talking about it. We just don't feel like we've made the Velvet Revolver record that we intended to make when we first got together.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've told you that a lot of times, too. I think there's stuff on those records.
So at some point we'll do it. But, I mean, what you were saying, I mean, this whole thing that's going on now, I didn't see it coming. I made the solo record as a one-off project and sort of to escape the drama of the Velvet situation in 2008. And so I made that record, and I met Miles, and I had no idea that this was all going to, evolve. And so it's one of those things where I'm very wary of going, oh, this is going to be the next blah, 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 and it's going to be great, and we're going to make 20 records. I've always been very cautious and gun-shy after all the experiences.
Sure, yeah, I would think.
But I can honestly say it's with the best bunch of guys and a really sort of a creative situation that I don't see any potential issues with. So I'm really looking forward to finishing up this tour, we still have the rest of the states to do, and we're going to, where are we going? Europe and South America, and we have some other stuff next year. But actually, I started, tinkering around with all these new ideas for another record. So
wow.
After Alter Bridge does their, album and touring cycle, I'm really looking forward to seeing I think we've only tapped into what we can do with this band. So after those guys are done, getting back together and doing like a really, another record that's going to be really cool.
So, do you still like this whole process in terms of the road? Because, I mean, you were telling me, obviously, at the top of the interview, you were up at 8 o'clock doing interviews. You just got, into New York. You got a nap. You got a gig tomorrow night here in New York. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. There's guys that are more studio rats, and then there's guys that really love being on that bus and being on the planes and the road. Yeah. Where do you fall in that?
I'm a touring guy.
You like being out there.
Let's see. I think I love writing songs. I love stumbling on, or discovering or creating something new in a record. But I think the motivation for actually making an album isn't just because I want to record songs. It's because I want to go out and play them in front of an audience. And that's what turned me on when I was a kid. That's what it was like when I used to buy records. I used to buy live albums. And so the inspiration for me to do what it is that I do was based on rock and roll in a live setting. So touring is what it's all about for me. I'm a way better guitar player, or at least I get better when I'm touring as opposed to sitting around in the studio. I'm not that great in the studio. I get sort of stagnant and there's no energy. Even if I try to create it, like in the last record, we played live, so that was a step above, doing overdubs. But I mean, playing every night in a different city is where I really sort of get to grow as a guitar player, and I love being in front of an audience, and I love being in a different city and all that stuff every night. And the rest of it, the hardships of the actual, you know, grueling part of touring is worth it for that 2 hours to go up there and do that.
Slash is currently on tour, slashonline.com, the website to find a date near you. And the new album, of course, is Apocalyptic Love.
This tea is actually starting to work.
Is it working? We're going to get you good because we got 4 more hours. No, I'm just kidding. Right. Let's play something from the new record. And I mean, I have so many tracks on here I love, but since you've lived with this for a little bit, have you played a lot of this live?
We've played everything. We just started playing Bad Rain. What I've been doing is we do about 6 or 7 songs. I think it's 6 songs off the album every night, and we alternate between like a couple of them with other songs. So I've been sort of, you know, like at one point, you know, Anastasia was the newest one, and then One Last Thrill, and then Hard and Fast, and so now we have all these songs to pick from the pool. So we just started doing Bad Rain, which is really cool. I think the only song that we haven't done yet is We Will Roam, and we haven't done Far and Away yet.
So do you want to play? What do you want to play?
Far and Away. I haven't heard it since since we made the record.
Far and Away.
Or you can play. You know what? Play Will Roam. Let's hear that one.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm just trying to see the track numbers because they're really small.
That's the hardest song on the record to play, believe it or not.
Hold on a second. It's track 7. It looks like. I'm just trying to see the numbers. Okay, cool. Yeah, I like this song. This song has a cool guitar thing going on in the front of it.
So. Yeah, it was written on a baritone guitar and recorded as well. So there's a Les Paul and a baritone guitar going on.
All right, let's do it. This is from Slash featuring Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators, which eventually may one day just become the Conspirators and make it easier on everybody. This is from the brand new album, which of course, well, not brand new, but fairly new. And hopefully you have it if you don't buy it, because it is a great one. We Will Roam is the name of the song. We'll come back. We are live on Sirius XM 39. It's Eddie Trunk with Slash in the studio. Hang out.
Restless tide is breaking on the shore. Seven skies beyond the storm. When we ride until we can no more, just to find our own.
As We Will Roam from Slash's new album, Apocalyptic Love. Great sounding stuff.
It's a cool song. I haven't heard it. Don't listen to the record after it's mastered.
You don't?
Not at all.
What the hell do you do? You don't open your eyes on stage. You don't listen to the records you make.
It's
you can't see girls flashing you from the stage with your eyes closed. What good is it, man?
But I don't. When you finish a record, it's you listen to it so many times, and you just you've been through the whole process of making it, and once it's done, it's done. And so if you hear it on the radio or something like that, it's cool. But you play it every day live.
25 year anniversary since your first record, Appetite. Have you ever recently put that on start to finish and listened to it?
I haven't listened to Appetite. But yeah, I don't think so.
Not since '87.
I mean, I don't think I've ever put it on and just sat and listened to it. I've heard
really.
You never. That's the thing. You make a record and it's done. And
yeah, but
it's really absorbing to sit and listen to your own records. It's really like you all your focus gets sucked into it and you're stuck there for an hour and you really get analytical and all this stuff. So I just never listen to anything once it's done, or TV or anything you do that once it's finished, it's out there. There's nothing you can do about it. You move on.
See, I guess I can understand that because I watch my own TV show the very first when I'm home. The very first time it airs on Saturday nights. The reason why, of course, I did it so I know what happens, but I watch it because I'll tweet during it because people ask me questions. Like we just did this show this past week, and Adler popped out of a birthday cake. It was insane.
You told me that.
He was listening earlier. He said to say hello to you and that he loves you. And he comes out of the cake, and I mean all this crazy shit. So I like to sit there I feel like I'm watching it with the audience at times because they'll ask me stuff, and I'll be like, wait till you see what's going to come up. So I do that thing the one time it airs. But you're right. I mean, I can see where you're coming from with that because I don't go back. There's 100 episodes of that metal show now. I don't go back and pull out episode 22 and.
I mean, I'll go back and listen to stuff if I have to reference for something. But it's like you put a lot of work into anything that you have creative control over, and once that process is done, there's nothing you can do about it. There's no sense, and it makes me uncomfortable. Just like if I'm in a restaurant, like at the Rainbow, when they were to play any one of the records that I'm, in its entirety, it would be a really bummer situation because you just can't get away from it at that point. You get so sucked into it, and if you're in a table full of people, it's like you just shut him off. He's done,
And by the way, let me just say, I was not in any way trying to compare that metal show to Appetite for Destruction in terms of its importance. I get where you're coming from in terms of you create something and your focus is just on to the next.
I had this one time where my wife she has these in the computer, this random mix kind of thing, and I think one of the sides of User Illusions, one of the records, came on, and then once it was on, I couldn't stop listening to it. So if I'm in that situation, I'll listen, but I don't actually, of my own accord, go put my own records on.
Well, you can't. There's certain things you can't avoid. Like, for instance, and I gotta tell you this. You texted me yesterday. I was at the Giants game. And you said what happened with the Giants because you knew I was losing my mind. And by the way, you didn't text me during Football Sunday in Week 1 during the Giants game, and we lost.
I was.
So you're like, I'm superstitious about that shit because you hit me up every weekend last.
Wasn't that like in
season,
Australia or something?
Right through to the Super Bowl, and here Week 1, and I'm like at the game, and
I didn't text you when they lost.
And it lost. I'm like, son of a bitch.
No, I've been a little out of touch with all the different sports.
But anyway, speaking of that, tying in what we were talking about, you can't watch sports and avoid Welcome to the Jungle.
Well, see, that's a whole different thing. I mean, it comes on. It's
but
not that big a deal.
That's got to be crazy to you that here's this thing you did 25 years ago. That in every environment, that opening lick, you were hearing it constantly.
But you have to be honored.
Of course you'd be honored, but after a while, I would be kind of like, enough already.
No, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I don't watch that much sports anyway. So.
But isn't it kind of weird how that
What's
that
the
particular
worst thing?
lick
The
has
worst
become,
thing.
that song has become like Crazy Train, this sports anthem.
It's cool. I mean, there's no way I could complain about that.
No, I'm not expecting you to, but that and Sweet Child, and there's certain things, I don't know how did it happen with Crazy Train? Like, I often wonder how that happens. Does one guy in a stadium wake up one day and say, I'm going to play this every game, and then everyone who runs stadiums around the country hears it?
I mean, you know what it is I think what I actually have no clue. I mean, maybe there's something in the song that, in a lyric way, the energy of the music, the lyrics speak to football or whatever the sport is, and it just the marriage just works perfectly, and so they just leave it in.
I think it has something to do with the build up, if you will, the drama of it. You know, like Welcome to the Jungle starts with
that's
the
the
lick,
way the
and
songs
then
are
builds
arranged,
stronger. Same with Crazy Train. You know, it's this freaky thing that goes into this riff. I don't know.
The best example is "We Will Rock You."
Yeah, that's just chant, sing along.
But it's perfect for that, for getting a bunch of people in unison in that kind of an event.
Yeah.
It's actually not, it's not rocket science. It's just you pick a song that seems to have, it's a popular song, it's got a certain kind of vibe to it that fits the sport, and it's got lyrics that encompass the spirit of what the game's all about, and it's like, and it just works, and then they just leave it there, because it's a statement that it just, you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying, but
it works.
I know, and I agree with you. But it's just like, for me, it's like, okay, well, how about, I don't know, doing Halo from your new, it just seems kind of random how it all, like where it first started, like the first guy to do it, and it's like, I wish they'd bring in new songs, because I'm done with Sandman, and I'm done with Welcome to the Jungle as far as that.
There's certain anthems that
I know you can't. The crowd goes nuts.
Are what they are. Back in Black is, has always been from the first time I ever heard it, and you can't. It's hard to go into the studio with the forethought that that's what it's going to be. It sort of takes on a life of its own after it's out there, and you never know what song it's going to be. That's going to be that song. But "We Will Rock You," they must have known.
You would think, but then again, I mean, who knows? But it almost sounds like it's tailor-made, and anybody who has tried to do that intentionally, like go for a song like that, has never really connected with it. You know, a lot of people have written songs.
Except for Kenny Loggins.
With what?
He's written a lot of songs that are intentionally big anthem hits.
Really?
And he went into it with that intention, and that's a talent unto itself. I'm going to write a massive anthem. Okay.
Yeah. Who knew? Exactly. Tell me what you're playing in the live set outside of stuff from the new album. I mean, because you had a great balance going there with Velvet stuff, some Gun stuff, some your own stuff. I mean, Snake Pit.
Right.
Is that getting harder now because this new album you want to do so much from?
Well, no, we have the 2-hour set, and so what I do is I have every morning or first thing in the day is I look at the set, and just basically there's certain songs that are always going to be in there, and then I alternate a bunch of different ones. And so I do that with the Gun stuff. I do that with the new record. A couple of, actually even a Velvet song or two. So I just sort of look at the set, what worked last night, say like we had a really great set last night. We might even just keep it that way for 2 or 3 shows because it just works so well. And then after, the second or third show, okay, I'm going to alternate this and alternate that. And what about such and such a song? We haven't played it yet. Should we play it? Should we start playing it at this gig? Because that first time that you ever play it, you're sort of like, it's a crapshoot. Because you're going to go up there and you don't know what the night's going to be like. And it's the first time you've ever played this song in front of an audience. And so all of a sudden you go, okay, we're going to stick this in the set and take a chance to see what happens.
Right.
So it's been pretty interesting. But there's a limited amount of material from any of the other bands that I'm willing to do, and also that Miles is willing to do. So we have a very narrow, a limited amount of songs to be able to choose from, as far as like Guns N' Roses and Velvet Revolver and Snake Pit and stuff.
Is that just because of comfort zone, or is that because of time?
It's more because of comfort zone. Because like I said, you can alternate all the time, so we keep it within 2 hours. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you can always play it at some point instead of something else.
Right.
But it's limited because there's only certain songs. Like most of the stuff that I'll do from, say, Guns is only from Appetite, with the exception of Civil War. And that's for a lot of reasons for that. And with Snake Pit, it's got to be stuff that lyrically Miles feels like he can own it. You know, there's certain songs that he doesn't feel comfortable with the lyrics. And there's certain songs that just have they sung in a certain voice that he might not feel comfortable doing or whatever. But then there's Todd. Todd can sing just about anything, doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, he has a great voice too, yeah. You got two guys that can sing on that.
He does gun songs that Miles doesn't necessarily feel like singing and stuff like that. It's an interesting band, you know, and it's really like real simple and there's not a lot of thought going into it. We just make everything just fun and we don't really analyze what's going on.
And how's your the young lad that you've taken out on the road with you, Frank. Your second guitarist? How's he holding up? Because
he's holding up great.
Yeah, he's a real nice guy, and we've spent some time talking and stuff. And he, you know, this is like the first big thing he's really done, it seems. And you know, I talked to him just before it all started, and
no, he fit in great. I mean, it was almost like, I would say, seamless when he came into it. He learned all the material, and he just, you know, grabbed the bull by the horns and jumped in there. And I remember the first show that we did with him, it was like we've been playing together for years. You know, he walked up to the front of the stage, took control and did his thing, owned that whole side of the guitar, you know, twin guitar thing. And he's kick-ass.
I wonder if you worry about that, though. A guy who's, you know, new to the band and he's a little younger than everybody else, and you're taking him out on a world tour and everything, that he just loses his shit out there and just goes off the rails.
Well, see, one of the I have a bad habit of, you know, just taking that step forward without giving it too much thought.
Right.
I can see that happening to somebody. But I've had that happen with a couple guys in Snake Pit lineups.
Oh, really?
Where it was just like, working with me was a license to get just completely rotted. And it was the way they saw it.
You weren't like that, so they figured they had to be like that.
But it was down to a science with me. You know, it was like, you know, I had to run everything too, but I had a different mindset than that. I had a couple guys who just thought this was an excuse to just get obliterated, and then they wouldn't know, then they wouldn't be able to show up for work, you know.
Right. Well, when you were in Guns and you were whacked out of your skull, the band was big enough that there was enough people around you that I would think they could keep it somewhere on track, so at least you could make the gigs.
No, see, that's the thing.
Even when it got really big?
With Guns N' Roses, there was nobody ever that was going to tell us what to do. Any of us in the band. So it doesn't matter how big the entourage was. The only guy that ever took the authority to tell us, to try and sort of direct us at all and to keep us out of trouble was Alan Niven back in the day. But we've never had anybody really, you know, step up and go, you shouldn't do this, or you can't do this, or you should do this. So it was like, you know, it's sort of like we had played by our own rules.
But if they did, what would have happened? Would you think they would have been fired instantly, or would?
I don't. Well,
back then,
I don't think if somebody come up to me and said you shouldn't drink so much, or sometimes I'd piss off.
Right.
You don't have to fire somebody for that.
Right.
They have an opinion.
But when you moved into Snake Pit, when it was smaller, and you were, you know, especially around the time of the second record, you were carrying a lot more of the load on your shoulders then, and you were still getting whacked out. I mean, did you time that? Did you figure out a way to make that work?
I always prided myself, and I still look back and pat myself on the shoulder for being a functional addict. So, in other words, I took everything very seriously, and I balanced out what my, you know, how much I drank and so on and so forth. So I always was a little still in the driver's seat.
You know, it's funny. I had Joey Kramer
most of the time.
Right. Well, I had Joey Kramer in here a few weeks ago, and Joey was telling me that back in the days when he hit it the hardest, he was still make sure that he was good in time for the 2 hours on stage.
Well, that's
and he still went to this is hysterical. He told me he still went to the gym every day. That he was worried about his physical appearance, and even if he was fucked up out of his head, he'd go to the gym whacked out of his skull just to get his workout in because he's worried about what he looked like.
No, check it out. Me and Duff, when the band was living in Chicago, just before, you know, starting writing for Use Your Illusions, me and Duff would go to the bar and then go to the gym and then go to the bar.
I just find that so funny, man. I mean, it's just hysterical.
But I mean, the most important thing, and I think this is in some way, shape, or form a gift, is that you can prioritize playing. That's of paramount importance. And so you look at it like, well, I'm going to do this and this and this, all this extracurricular, sort of abusive stuff to myself. But as long as I can play, that's the most important priority. And that was one of the things that people always got on our case about with Steven when he got fired, which, all things considered, I wasn't really, that was a very sensitive situation. But for the longest time, he could not play, and that's where you sort of cross that line.
Yeah, because, as crazy as things may have been and whatever state you may have been in, you never really ever heard things like Slash sucked tonight, he couldn't play. It seemed like no matter what was going on, the couple hours you were on stage with whatever band, with whatever condition and things going on around you, the show never really suffered. Right. It doesn't seem like.
I mean, you really tried to not have that happen. I mean, I can't say that it didn't happen. I remember particular nights where, I remember one in New York, especially at the Limelight, where I mixed. I took a lot of what are they called? Time release sleeping something or other for the flight from LA to New York.
NyQuil type of stuff?
No.
No dose or
no. It was a prescription thing.
Oh,
anyway, and I took these things, and when I got to New York, we had a show that night, mixed with a bottle of Jack Daniels. All of a sudden, I was obliterated, and we had to go up and play. I remember I fell off the stage that night. It took me 10 minutes to get Sweet Child of Mine going, and it was like, so there's been times, I'm no angel.
How long?
I always did really focus on being able to play. That was the most important thing.
Kind of like Lemmy in that regard. Lemmy's a guy that still to this day is, never without his Jack and Coke, but you never hear stories about Lemmy fucking up on stage.
It's a balance. It's like, it's not necessarily about trying to get as high, like if you go in a bar and you pound 50 shots, you're intentionally trying to get yourself wasted.
Right.
But what we were doing, or what I always did, was just a steady maintenance. So I always had the same exact routine every single day. And so I got up in the morning, I had my triple vodka and cranberry juice, and I steadily drank all day, and I never, there was no spikes. Then after the gig, I might go to the bar and augment that.
Amp it up a little.
With some Jägermeister and a bottle of Jack and whatever else would go with it. But during the day, it was always just a very steady diet and so you're always on an even keel.
How long you been sober now?
7 years now.
7. Congrats, man. I remember one of the last times you weren't, I was with you. At the at the House of Blues in Vegas.
That was
with Ace.
Yeah,
that was the night he fell off too.
Yeah,
that was the last time he fell off, actually.
That was my last run. And after I saw you, that went all the way down to rock bottom. And then I got down there and I said, you know what, this isn't that much fun. So
oh, really? You went down after that?
Yeah, because what happened was during during the Velvet tour. We all had issues. It was a very volatile, very chaotic, unpleasant sort of situation with Velvet Revolver during 2004, 2005. And so towards the end of that, I just started drinking hard and this and that and the other. And there was a point there when I just said, you know what, I'm just going to go off the deep end. And I was very conscious of it. And so I just went steadily downward. I had to move out of my own house and checked into a hotel and just had my way with all my chemical whatevers. And then I said, okay, I'm done. And I made a date for rehab, and I did my stuff all the way up until that morning, finished it all off, and I went to rehab.
Wow.
And spent a month there. I think rehab, more than it being, it was a place to go where you get my head straight and get away from everybody and just chill out for a month and then come back and go, okay, I'm done.
Is it hard for you still?
Mm-mm. No, I made that decision. I haven't had an issue with it since.
So but do you still go for therapy and meetings and stuff, or are you good?
Well, I haven't been to a meeting in a little while. I used to go, once a week when I was at home. I've been on the road so much. So when I do go to LA, I might go to like my home meeting or something like that. But when I'm on tour and stuff, I really haven't felt like, you know, I need to go to a meeting. I haven't
But see,
had that
yeah,
time
because
yet.
I would think being on the road is the time you would be most tempted to just. You gotta, because you know, as much. Listen, you're in New York now. There's a lot going on, and there's
a lot going on
press, and there's.
everywhere.
Yeah, I would imagine, but I would think that it's kind of like, well, you know, the cat's away. Who cares if a little something, you know, a slip up here and there?
No, my biggest problem was home. That
Really?
was always my biggest issues. It was always getting off the road and not knowing how to slow the wheels down and what to do with yourself and how to just relax. And so I would always invariably start doing dope. You know, the great time killer.
Do the guys in your band drink?
No, that's the funny thing is none of the guys. I mean, everybody. You know, I mean, they're not recovery addicts, but none of them really drink or do any drugs or any of that stuff.
But they don't. I mean, is there like on your rider backstage? Is there alcohol for them at all, or
No.
for guests?
We have like some beer sometimes. I mean, our rider is it's really funny. It's like back in the day, it was always, you know, a carton of Marlboros and a fifth of Jack and a fifth of vodka, and that's all I ever cared about. So we took that away. All of a sudden, it's like there's nothing on it. Some fucking sunflower seeds.
So tomorrow night when I come to the show, if I want to have a few, I should do it like old school before
Right, yeah,
at the bar next door
Yeah,
before I come in.
somehow we always manage to get drinks for people. And when Pearl is out, she brings her own. You know, she brings a bottle, whatever.
How is things with the family these
She's
days?
good. I got to get home. See, what happened was this tour was booked straight through because in December I needed a free miles up to get to work with Mark on Alter Bridge. So we condensed a world tour into this 8 months straight. So I haven't really been home more than 2 days at a time for the last 8 months.
How old are your kids now?
8 and 10. I missed both their birthdays.
Wow.
So I got to finish up in December, and then we're going to take a break for a while.
So the 8-year-old is probably third grade, right?
He is...
Third.
Is it third grade?
Because my daughter's eight,
No.
so she'd be third. She's third grade.
Okay, yeah, so it is third grade, because he was in second grade. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And,
So you keep tabs on him? Do you Skype and all that stuff?
yeah, no, we talk
check in
all
on
the
him.
time. And, you know, I keep in touch with him all the time, but still, you know, they need my physical presence.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, Slash is here. It's Eddie Trunk. We're live on Sirius XM 39. We got 28 minutes before the show ends, so you're going to stick it out to the top of the hour?
Yeah, hang out with you.
Let's do one more from the record, and I want to ask you about some stuff outside of music stuff because I want to ask you about your movie thing because
man.
Slasher Films going to
Yeah, that's exciting.
get an
That's
update
cool.
on that. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Again, you can see Slash if you're in the New York area tomorrow night, Hammerstein Ballroom here in New York City, and then the tour continues and continues. Wherever you're listening in America or Canada, just go to slashonline.com for info and tour dates and all the stuff you need to know. What else should we play from the new record?
Well, we were talking about Anastasia being well, I don't know for sure if it's going to be the next single or not, but you can play that.
Yeah, it's a great track, and I've been playing it.
It won't be a single if they attempt to edit it.
Yes, well, I've been playing this since it's been one of my first favorite tracks from the record. I've been playing it since I first got it, and the audience loves this too. And this is just there's a great story
Did
going
we
on
play it
here.
when we saw you? When I saw you
Live?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think we started playing it.
No. There's a great story going on here, and then the end, as you said, it's a 6-minute song. In the end, it just goes into this kind of, you know, to me, a very like Guns-ish type of groove, you know, and then you soloing over the top. It's cool as hell. I mean, and don't ever cut that off.
No.
That would be crazy.
I wouldn't do that.
If there's some radio stations out there that don't have the balls to play 6 minutes of a great song with Slash ripping on the end, then they shouldn't call themselves a rock station, but that's another story.
Yeah.
Well, you can't say that, I can. So. All right, here's Anastasia from Apocalyptic Love, the new album from Slash, and we'll come back, and when this ends, we'll have about 20 minutes left, and we'll talk about Slasher Films, Slash's film production company, and anything else we didn't touch on in our remaining moments. Again, we're live on Sirius XM 39. It's Eddie Trunk Live every Monday, 6 to 10 Eastern, 3 to 7 Pacific, and this is Anastasia.
See, that conversation that we just had was so hard because that was going on in the background. It's like a magnet. just completely just focus on it. So we're
that distracted you from what we were talking about off the air?
Yeah, it was so hard. It was like having a conversation over here and listening.
I should have muted it completely. Should I just muted it completely?
It does. It makes you just all of a sudden, get into every single note that's going on.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Anastasia from Slash, Apocalyptic Love, the new album, and a great track there, which may or may not be the next single from the album. We will see. We have about 20 minutes left. We're live till 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific. A few more minutes here. Some things to discuss with Slash, who's been hanging out with us. The Slasher Films, man, what's going on?
It's okay. So it's in post-production, right? We're doing the visual effects right now, and the movie's awesome.
What's it called?
It's called Nothing to Fear, and it is the first installment of the Slasher movie brand. And it's the guy Anthony Leonardi who directed it. It's his first real feature, but he's been in the business. He's a storyboard artist and just a really amazingly talented guy. And he does all the storyboards for he's like Gore Verbinski's protege, and his dad's in the movie business and so on. And he's just been so fascinating to watch work, and he's just really creative and does an amazing job. So this first movie is going to be very special because it's got that artistic thing to it, where somebody really puts their heart and soul into it, and it's not about it's a horror movie, so it's not a big budget feature or anything like that, and it's really about the art of it. So it's one of the reasons why I got into it in the first place. It's very similar to music that way.
How hands-on are you with this? Because this is your production company and all that, but I mean, are you reading the scripts? Are you picking the people working on it? Are you picking actors?
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing everything
from the very get-go. I have my partner Rob, and I go through script development and casting, everything. All the different practitioners and techs that go into making the movie, who's going to do the sound, who's doing the special effects, who's doing blah, blah, blah. And so it's a very hands-on kind of a thing. Plus I'm involved in the music as well, which is really cool.
So did you score it?
Well, I wouldn't call it scoring. We have a composing artist who I'm working with, and he's going to score the movie. I'm just writing stuff. And then he's going to, because I'm doing everything on guitar, but we don't want it to be a guitar-based score for this movie, at least. So, I send him everything, and he transposes it into the instruments that he's using. So it's really cool.
So when is this going to come out?
Well, let's see. I mean, it'll be out next year. It'll be out next year for sure, but I don't know what month yet.
Right, and what if you can't? I mean, not that I want you to give anything away, but is there a loose storyline, like what the concept is? Can you say that yet?
Well, yeah. Let's see.
See, because the thing with me, I love horror movies, but I love horror movies that have a great storyline.
Well, this is the whole reason I got into this.
I just don't like people getting chopped up and just splatter shit. I gotta be. Sometimes to me, the scariest shit is shit you don't see.
Yeah. That's exactly what inspired me to do this. It was the way that I got into this was just by chance. I had a conversation with somebody about horror films, which is as far back as I can remember, along with music, my favorite thing ever since I was a little kid was all the Hammer pictures that came out of England, which was a brand that put out a lot of horror movies. And all growing up, all my favorite movies were always horror movies. So I had this conversation with Rob Eric, who's now my partner, and I told him what I thought about the way where the genre is at this point. And so he said, you should produce movies. And I was like, yeah, right. And so he started getting me scripts. I started reading them, and then we found this one script, and all of a sudden turned it into about a handful of really good scripts. And next thing you know, I started producing them. We decided to call it, Slasher Films and all that. But it was to reinvent the psychological scary movie, the movie that is got it has a story and has a plot and it has characters that you're invested in, and the story itself is something that is intellectually stimulating, but it's something that's scary not because it's unsettling by watching somebody get chopped up in as many possible ways as you can, and that's the movie. It's about something creepy, something, whatever it is that gets inside you and gets under your skin and gets in your bones and scares the shit out of you. And that's what we decided to focus. Well, that's what I wanted to focus on. And so that's what it's all about. Even though, in contrast to the name of the company, which is Slasher Films, it's not a slasher type thing.
Right. You got to put your own money up for this, or how does that?
No, we have to go out, and it's an interesting. It's been an interesting experience. We have to go out and get money.
So those people are also, I guess, credited as producers. Is that how that works? That you?
Well, we're the producers, but we have. I mean,
you get the backing, and then they get a piece of it, or however you make the deal.
You get a studio that wants to invest in your film, and you get money from different places to invest in your film.
How much money? What kind of budget?
This is a $5 million.
And so that, by Hollywood standards, by movie standards, that's really
for
small.
For horror movie, it's actually pretty normal.
So that's a good way to do, I would think, your first movie, because pretty good chance that's going to be profitable. You want to turn a profit.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it'd be nice to turn a profit on it as long as we can break even. I just want to make a really good movie.
Are you going to get out there and promote it, or are you just going to let because your name's on it?
I'll be out there.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to be, because unless you had some sort of big name star, whenever want to talk to you about it.
Whenever you do anything that you want people to take an interest in, then you have to get out there yourself and get behind it and convince them that it's worth investing their time in.
Right.
You can't have somebody else do it and wonder why it didn't happen.
Are you thinking about the next one already?
Yeah, we're thinking about the next two, actually. So it looks like we're going to be doing at least 2 movies, if not 3 a year, as long as we can keep getting good scripts.
Who knew, man? Slash turned into the Hollywood mogul, the mover and shaker. Look at him. Look at him.
It's definitely
just talk about not being able to stand up on stage in '87 in New York City, and now you're running Hollywood. Look at you.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that.
Next, you just got to learn how to keep your eyes open on stage.
Yeah, right.
Slash is hanging out. It's Eddie Trunk. We're live till the top of the hour. What have you done outside of with the Conspirators? Because you're always working with other people. I saw on your Twitter that there was a rumor you were going to work with Robbie Williams, and that didn't work out. I know you did something on a Les Paul tribute recently.
I did that. I did a lot of stuff. I did the Les Paul tribute. I played on where am I spacing right now? Jerry Lee Lewis record with Keith Richards and Jim Keltner and Ronnie Wood and stuff. Were
those guys actually there when you did it?
No.
Oh, okay.
We all popped in at different times.
Right.
But Jim Keltner was, because he was playing drums. So.
Right.
But I did just a couple little things while I was getting ready to make this record, and then since then I haven't done anything with the exception of playing on a song with Hailstorm recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Miles sang on it. Really cool song.
That'll be on their record.
I don't know exactly what they're doing with it, and I haven't heard the finished mix either, so I'm eager to hear what it sounds like, see what they did with it.
There's a lot of people that are pretty hyped on that band.
They're a good band. I had them open for us when we were in Amsterdam, and they're great. A couple shows in Europe they did, and so I really like them.
And you did something. What did you do? A Les Paul tribute track or something recently?
I actually did that a while back. It's just now coming out.
Oh, okay. Because I think
Keith is on that as well.
There's
a lot of cool guitar players on that one.
Oh, Keith Richards. Yeah. Because I don't know if you recorded it there, but
I recorded it at my house.
Oh, okay. Because there's a guy that worked on that record. I know has a studio very close to me in Jersey. His name's Ben Elliott. Mm-hmm. He has a studio called the Showplace, and he worked on that recording. And when I heard that you were a part of it, and Ben was a part of it, it made sense, because Ben's studio is known for having the most insane vintage gear and amp heads and pedals and all that. As a matter of fact, Keith actually went there once.
Right. Well, I mean, the album is Les's trio, right? So Blue Lou and the other 2 guys. And so I don't know, maybe they did the basic tracks over at your guys' place.
Yeah. Well, his band right now actually every Monday.
Which reminds me, I gotta call Blue Lou.
Well, every Monday at Iridium, which is literally around the block from here, his band plays, and they bring in different guitar players.
I've been supposed to do it, and I haven't had time.
it would be a nut house if you did it.
So at some point, in the not too distant future, though, I'm going to do it.
But it's cool. I mean, I've seen Steve Stevens do it. Ted Nugent did it. Richie Kotzen did it. Doug Aldrich did it. Zach Wilde did it. And what's wild about it is you've got these guys, these really well-known electric guitar players or really accomplished electric guitar players, and their first set is with Les's band.
Right.
So, you've got these older dudes,
Well, I played with those guys a bunch of times, and the first time that I played with Les Paul was at, it wasn't the Iridium then, it was the other place, Fat Tuesdays or something.
Okay.
And that was a huge learning experience for me, because I was a great, obviously Les Paul fan. But to actually get up there and play with him, I mean, he embarrassed the shit out of me, let's put it that way. And that became sort of like every time I played with him was a bar of how much better I was getting as a musician.
So help me out here, because not being a guitar player, and I interviewed Les once, maybe 8 years ago, and not being a guy that I know of his contributions, multi-track recording, obviously the guitar itself and all that stuff, but not being a guitar player, not really knowing that world of music all that much. As a player, Les was considered a great player?
Oh, he was an amazing player. Yeah,
really?
Yeah. He was one of the few guys who mixed technical genius with musical genius. He was fantastic at both, and an innovator at both. And so, yeah, as a guitar player, he's somebody that plays jazz and traditional standards and does amazing melodies and the solo lines and so on and so forth. And really, 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 really good shape. And so first, I come from a very sort of simple blues rock kind of background. And to play the kind of stuff that Les does, you need to do a little bit more homework. And so I went up there raw one night, and I played in the right key and everything, but he basically wiped the stage up with me. And so I got to be friends with Les since from that point on. And when I felt brave, I'd go up and play with him, and I would use that as a barometer for how much better I was getting.
Yeah. It's amazing. He was. Like I said, I got to meet him only a couple times, and I interviewed him once on VH1 Classic on TV, long before that metal show, and I was just working there as a host. And he was a guy. He also, even at that point, I don't know, he was in his late 70s, early 80s, whatever he was, and he just had a great sense of humor.
Oh, he's so funny.
He was so. You see this little old man come in, but he was very rock and roll, man.
Sharp as a whip, a total womanizer.
Yeah, yeah.
Not so much a womanizer, but a woman chaser.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't do that. He didn't really try to get the whole follow through, right. But he loved to flirt. And
he told me some funny stories. He was great.
One-liners, but also a tough little son of a bitch too. He didn't want to mess with Les.
Yeah.
He didn't take any crap from anybody. But one of the great things about Les, and a total testament to his commitment to guitar, was he broke his arm in a car accident, and he had it set so it just sat comfortably over the guitar.
Really?
Talk about priorities.
Oh, that's amazing. It's Eddie Trunk talking live with Slash. We're quickly running out of time, but I also while we're talking about innovators in the world of music, Jim Marshall passing away recently. Yeah. And I know there's an event coming up in England for him.
This month is in a few days.
I think so, yeah, because I think I was talking to a few people I know who are going over and playing on that.
I wanted to go. I'm gonna be here.
But did you have a relationship with him? I imagine
I did. Yeah. I met Marshall. I met Jim in I think it was like 1990, 1991. And he was another guy like Les, who sort of took me under his wing and sort of made me family over at Marshall, and gave me one of the first ever artist series Marshall amps.
Wow. And that's what you still play today?
Well, I have a new one since then.
Right.
That was the first one.
But they're still Marshalls.
Yeah. They're just a Slash model.
Yeah. Well, I think I met him once.
He was a great guy. Somebody who's responsible for probably the most iconic, most important piece of rock and roll gear ever made.
Yeah, I don't.
Bar none.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean,
there's Fender and there's Les Paul and there's Jim Marshall. These guys have invented indispensable pieces of equipment. You look at I saw, what was it, iCarly the other day, and they had some whatever band on Nickelodeon, and they're in the background just to make it look like something is a Marshall, you know?
I know my kids watch all those shows too, and you see that band back there, and yeah, there's a certain level of cred just having that there, you know. Without
Jim
a
was a
doubt.
cool guy, though.
And the thing with Les, like I said, I mean, beyond the guitar and his playing and the guitar itself, multi-track
Yeah,
recording.
no, he was
the guy invented
he was
multi-track recording.
a genius tinkerer, and he's one of those guys. And I think I got this from him, where if he wanted to hear something and they didn't make it, he'd invent it. So in other words, he wanted to make a sound, or he wanted to hear an echo. It didn't exist, so he built it. You know, very resourceful.
We got about 4 minutes left before we wrap it up, and they take it back from me here from our live show. What are we forgetting? Anything you need to hit? Anything you want to mention?
No, I just came to hang out with you, man.
No, I mean, I'm glad
promoting anything anymore.
Oh yeah, I know, and I appreciate you did. And we covered that already. You wouldn't be good at doing it even if you were.
Right. Yeah, right. I know I'm a lousy salesman.
Hey, do you get the one thing I wondered too with you is, do you get wrapped up in politics at all?
I do not publicly. No, I don't mix politics with music.
So you don't go public and go out and endorse people or anything like that?
Somebody asked me that earlier this morning.
Yeah, I wondered just because it's such a big thing going on.
It is a big thing, but I'm not about to jump on that bandwagon.
Right. Well, I don't blame you, but I mean, a lot of people, especially musicians and stuff, would it bother you if one, not saying which one, but if one candidate or the other used one of your songs? If it wasn't the candidate you felt comfortable about, would you be one of those guys?
Wasn't...
Yeah, if it say the guy, again, you're not saying which way or the other, but say the guy that you weren't down with started using.
That would bother me. Yeah,
would you step out and say something publicly like people do?
Something like that.
But then you'd reveal your hand.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, all things considered, I doubt that's going to happen.
So where are you going after America? You doing the American run?
We're going back to, where are we going? We're going back to Europe for a month, and then going to South America. And then we have another European tour coming up, I think in either March or April, and some Asian dates as well. And then that's going to pretty much wrap it up for this cycle.
Have you hit anything on this tour, any places that you've never been to before?
We're going to India in February, and I've been there before, but I went there for the Asian launch of MTV, and I went and jammed with some people over there. I've never actually played there in a band, so that's going to be a cool experience.
I think, isn't that where the clip, when we used that clip of you with the snake?
That was it,
on that metal show, that was from that. I remember you saying that.
Tripping around in Bangalore. Yeah.
You still have all the snakes, or you only have one?
I only
right?
have the one snake, Sam. You met him.
Yeah, because you said...
And he's sitting at home getting really big, and Pearl's like, what are you going to do with this snake? He's huge,
How big is it?
He's really not that big. He's like probably 9 feet long.
What kind of snake is it?
Anaconda.
And who takes care of that while you're on the road?
Well, my cousin-in-law takes care of him, and then also my friend Ton, he's a reptile guy. You know that show Storage Wars?
Yeah.
Big guy with tattoos on his head.
I've never seen it, but I know the show.
Anyway, he's a good friend of mine, and he takes care of the snakes when I'm gone.
The snake. You only have one.
The snake.
And anaconda, like when you say that, that's like the anaconda that you hear, like, the horror movie anaconda, the thing that'll wrap around and kill you.
Yeah.
So that's no joke. I mean, there's not like calm anacondas.
I've had anacondas
right?
for a really long time. I've always had anacondas, and
can you pick that up? Can you pick it up and?
Yeah.
Well, what stops it from just doing the wraparound?
Try not to piss him off.
That's really rolling the dice, isn't it?
He's really tame. I've always had big constrictors. Those are always those kind of snakes that I've kept. So I've had 15-foot long snakes and bigger.
Jesus.
Kerry King's a big snake.
Yeah, I know. But man, that's intense, though, man. I mean,
no, I keep them in the garage. It's a joke.
Yeah, it's funny. What pisses off a snake in 60 seconds?
Well, I mean, snakes snakes basically like to be left alone. They're sort of like fish in that way. They're not real. They're not like mammals. They're not warm and fuzzy. So snakes don't like to be. They don't like you messing around with their face, poking them around their eyes or anything like that. Just about like any animal. they just don't want to be mistreated. You got to treat them with a little bit of respect, and you got to move slowly and support all the weight when you're holding them, and be gentle with them, and watch your ass.
There's your snake lesson from Slash. Very cool. Well, listen, man, we're just about out of time. Thank you so much for coming in.
It's great to come down here. Sorry I'm all scratchy and stuff.
No worries. Next time we'll bring a stack of records. We'll play some T-Rex. We'll play some UFO.
Yeah, it was Mark Bolan's anniversary of his death yesterday.
I wanted to play your version of Buick McCain. I didn't get a chance to do it. We ran out of time. Why? You didn't want to hear that?
I sang that song.
That's cool. Slash Online is the website. EddieTrunk.com is my website. Follow Slash me at Eddie Trunk. Thanks to Katie for her help.
I was going to say play foreign. I haven't heard that
I'm
song.
out of time. We'll see you next week. Bye.